Hi, everybody. Happy Tuesday. Welcome back to math virtually. Don't worry, today's a special day because, I'm wearing my Slope-Intercept form t-shirt. I know. I took the recommendations from yesterday and then I was like, God, should I make a t-shirt for Slope-Intercept form and standard form and point slope form? And I was like, oh my gosh. Maybe I might have to do it, so stay tuned. All right, so today we're going to be looking at, I know yesterday we looked a lot at standard form and what it looked like. We kind of dove deeper than we normally have with that form. Today I'm going to teach you how to convert between slope-intercept and standard form. Okay, so you should be fluent in doing both of them. So you should be able to go from standard to slope-intercept and slope-intercept to standard. Truthfully, these two are pretty easy to work with. When we get into point slope, that's a little bit more challenging. So those are your objectives. Become fluent in converting between the two forms, slope-intercept and standard. So let's just go back to the beginning. Let's make sure that we understand the different components of the two forms. So we know that with slope-intercept form, it's just y equals mx plus b. What I really need you to focus on here, though, is that y is isolated on the left side. So y is alone right here. Okay, that's the most important part. So it goes y, and then you have your term with your coefficient in x, and then you just have your constant here. When we talk about standard form, though, this one looks a little bit different. It's ax plus by equals c. A, b, and c have to be integers. You may not have any fractions for it to be in standard form. So slope-intercept form, that's totally fine. But with standard, you may not have any fractions. They all have to be integers throughout. Okay, so let's start with the, I don't know if this is easy or not, whatever. Okay, so we're gonna start with standard form, and I'm asking you to convert it to slope-intercept form. So you've got 3x plus 4y equals 8. So for it to be in slope-intercept form, we need this y to be alone on the left side here. So let me just grab my highlighter. You'll see at the bottom of all these screens as we're going forward, like what your goal should look like. Knowing that we're converting to slope-intercept form, it should look like y equals mx plus b when you're done. So we need this guy by itself on this left side. So naturally, the first thing that we want to move to the other side is our 3x term. Because it's positive, we're going to use the inverse operation by subtracting it from both sides. Now, when you do that, these cancel out here and you just have 4y. But here's what you need to be cognizant about. You've got 8 and you've got negative 3x. For it to be truly in slope-intercept form, you have to have that negative 3x part that comes first. So it would look something like this. You've got 4y equals negative 3x plus 8. Again, though, you just need y to be isolated as the only variable. Because of that, we're going to have to divide every single term by 4. 4 and y are bound by multiplication, so we need to perform the inverse operation, which is division. So notice how I just divided every single piece by 4. When I do that, here's what I have. Once my computer speeds up, more than dinosaur speed here. Okay, so we divide every single piece by 4, and you should have y equals negative 3/4 x. We're going to leave that as a fraction. That's okay for slope-intercept form. And then plus 2, because 8 divided by 4 is 2. Make sure that you check that it is correctly in the form. You've got y, you've got your term with x, and then you have a constant. So this is a quick example to go from standard to slope-intercept. Here we go. I'm going to have you guys, once you see this, go ahead and pause the video, and then you guys try converting from standard to slope-intercept form. Okay, so pause it and you guys try. All right, and here we go. So again, your goal form is y equals mx plus b. So if I've got negative 2x minus 5y equals negative 15, I really want this negative 5y part to be by itself before I can get rid of the negative 5. So if I have negative 2x, let's move that to the other side using inverse operations, which we know will be adding. Now that gets rid of these pieces here, and notice you still have the negative 5y. You need to make sure that you don't get rid of that minus sign because it's technically attached to the 5y term. And then you've got a positive 2x minus 15. Again, we need to have y isolated so that it's only by itself. To do that, you need to divide every single piece of the equation by 5. So when you do that, okay, you should have just y equals, it'll be negative 2/5 x. We're going to leave it as a fraction. And then look, you've got negative 15 divided by negative 5, when you divide a negative by a negative, becomes a positive. So that's why it's plus 3 here. And then you'd be done. So now, before we do the reverse process, here's what we really need to focus on. With standard form, it's in the form of ax plus by equals c. You cannot have any fractions. That's the toughest part about converting from slope-intercept to standard, is that you can't have fractions, so you have to clear them out. And I'll show you how to do that. So here we go. From slope-intercept to standard, we know that our goal is going to be ax plus by equals c. So first of all, now we need to get this 2x term and move it to the other side of the equal sign. If it's positive, we'll move it with subtraction. We have minus 2x minus 2x. Now we'll have negative 2x plus y equals 4. Then to see if you're done, as long as you have integers throughout, so I've got like negative 2, I've got 1, I've got 4, it's in the correct order, x, y, constant term, you're all good. So if it's in standard form, negative 2x plus y equals 4, you're good to go. All right, here we go. Example number 2. Now you guys can pause it and give it a try, and I'd be super impressed if you could also clear out the fractions. So pause the video, give it a try, at least the first or second step. All right, so we've got y equals 2/3 x minus 3. Let's start by moving this 2/3 x term to the other side, and because it's positive, we'll use subtraction to do so. Once you've done that, you've got negative 2/3 x plus y equals negative 3. Now, if you thought that you were done, hopefully you see the fraction of negative 2/3 and you're like, ooh, we can't have that. We can only have integers as our coefficients of variables. If you've got negative 2/3, you can clear that fraction by multiplying every single term by the denominator. So I see that my denominator in my fraction is 3. So if I multiply every single piece by 3, so I'd multiply this guy by 3, this by 3, and this by 3. Here's what I'd have. Negative 2/3 times 3 would just give us negative 2, so it's negative 2x. 3 times y is just 3y, and then 3 times negative 3 is negative 9. Now, this equation is fine because you've got integer, integer, and integer. You are lacking fractions, which is great for standard form. Okay? All right, one more example, and then we are all done. So now, what if I asked you, based on this graph, can you write the equation for the line in both slope-intercept and standard form? Most of us are pretty quick and efficient with doing this in slope-intercept form. All you really need to do is identify the y-intercept and then just find out what the slope is. So I see that my y-intercept is right here at negative 3. And then to figure out what my slope is, okay, I see I've got a point here and I've got a point here. I'm going to go up 1, 2, 3, and then over 1, 2, 3, 4. Because I went up 3 and over 4, I know that my slope or my m value is just 3/4. So if I were to put that into an equation, I'd have y equals 3/4 x minus 3. So that takes care of slope-intercept form. Now to write it in standard form, all you can, if you want, you could just quickly convert it from slope-intercept to standard, just like we did on the slide before, super quick. So we need to move this 3/4 x term to the other side. So we'll do that by subtraction because it's positive right here. Once you do that, you've got negative 3/4 x plus y, because it's positive right here, equals negative 3. For those of you who are like, oh, good job, we're done. No, we're not. We cannot have a fraction here. If you see a fraction, you can multiply every single piece by the denominator to clear it out. Now, when you multiply negative 3/4 times 3, that would just give you negative 3x right here. If we do 4 times y, that's going to give us 4y. And then negative 3 times 4 will give us negative 12. This green right here, this is okay in standard form. It's got all integers, no fractions. So that is it, you guys. That's all for today. So we worked on converting equations in slope-intercept form, converting to standard, and then converting from standard to slope-intercept. We also looked at if we have a graph of a line, now we can write that equation of the graph of the line in slope-intercept in standard form. So your assignment for today is a Schoology check. So it looks like a little assessment on Schoology. It's just an assignment from standard to slope-intercept form. Make sure that you take it 2 times for your higher score, and hopefully you enjoyed the t-shirt surprise for today. I miss you guys so much. Hopefully everything is well. If you need me, I'm literally always here. All right, bye guys.